Okay, everybody, I'm going to get started. This is
Lynn, if you don't, if you don't mind, I have to go over the little spiel beforehand.
Oh, go right ahead, Max.
Sure, thank you. So welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us, everyone will remain muted throughout tonight's presentation except committee chair Lynn, and presenters. Following the presentation, Lynn will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and pressing the raise hand button, which is different and not the wave or the thumbs up. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're on the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once Lynn calls on you, and you'll have to manually unmute. Lastly, the chat is for technical support, only to help with Zoom software problems and not to ask questions of Lynn or presenters. If you have an older version of Zoom, you'll need to go to the participants section, also at the bottom of your screen, where you can find the raise hand feature there. And finally, please don't raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. And with that, go ahead, Lynn.
Thanks, Max. And what I'd like to do before I request an approval of the agenda is I'd like to make a couple of quick modifications. So Carlos, I'm going to ask for your indulgence because what I'm going to do is our chair of Community Board 8 and Task Force, Russell Squire, has a brief Kohler Task Force update to make. And he's got another meeting that he's got to go to. So what we're going to do is move that report to number 1 on the agenda item. And then additionally, for Roosevelt Island, we will have Erica Spencer L. Instead of Shelton Haynes tonight. And then the last thing is where we have the Kohler Task Force and Friends of Kohler. We're adding, in addition to Friends of Kohler, the Kohler Auxiliary. For the Roosevelt Island Library, there will be a short video. And for the Friends of Kohler, there will be a short, not video, but PowerPoint. So I'd like to turn it over to Russell. Thank you so much for joining this evening. Max, if you can.
Thank you. Yep, I got it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lynn, and thanks everybody for allowing me to go first. So to give you guys an update on what's been going on with the Kohler Task Force. So at the beginning of the year in January, when I became chair of Community Board 8, I also became chair of the Kohler Task Force. So I'm new to the task force. We've had some other additions to the task force. Emma Stern, an attorney for disability rights, has joined, as well as 2 folks from the long-term care ombudsman program. And so those folks have all been really tremendous additions to the task force, and really helpful in its work. So, the task force, of course, had started in the course of all of the awful stuff that was going on at Kohler with COVID patients there, and the horrible results of that were going on. And because that has subsided, we sort of shifted gears to try and improve the conditions for the residents there, because in many ways they are still suffering as a result of COVID in terms of how it's impacting them in their daily lives. And they've really been subjected to additional restrictions and additional problems as a result of COVID. And so there are a number of issues that we're focusing on with them, including visitation, including access to technology and activities, to try to address the fact that in the absence of in-person visitation, they should be able to at least remotely engage with friends and family and be able to have other ways to occupy their time. There's a whole host of issues regarding, just their ability to fully use the facilities in terms of access to all of the grounds and outdoor space. There's a whole number of these kinds of quality of life issues. And when I say quality of life, I don't mean to minimize it. I mean, these are really just sort of fundamental things in many cases. And so that's what we have been focusing on recently. So we had sent a letter at the end of January to Health and Hospitals and the Kohler administration and gotten a response. And we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, which was actually attended by the Kohler administration and also by the head of Health and Hospitals, Dr. Katz. And there, the residents were able to express some of the problems they've been having and their grievances directly. And we got a lot of commitments from the administration to address those, which is very encouraging, although ultimately, of course, the real issue is going to be in the execution, because from what I understand, we've been down this road before where we'll get assurances from the administration that changes are being made or that certain things aren't happening that are happening. And so it's going to be really critical in the coming weeks that we are following up with them and making sure that they're actually doing the things that they've committed to do. And they're going to be back before us in March to also update us on the progress. Another issue that we've had is some of the restrictions that we've been dealing with that the residents have been complaining about. Some of them have to do with the Kohler administration, but in some cases, the administration's hands are tied by state guidelines. And so that's a situation where the residents are planning to write a letter to try and get some changes made. And on the task force, we are going to do what we can to support them in their effort with writing that letter. And the last thing I would say is a bit of good news. One of the items that we had discussed at our January meeting is that outdoor space had been roped off with yellow police tape, which was a big problem, not only because of the fact that it meant that the residents weren't able to use it, but also because it, just the optics of it and the, what it represents was really awful. And so I understand that the yellow tape has come down, and so that's a positive development.
So any questions? Okay, seeing none. Russell, thank you so much. And I'm going to move the, oh, you know what? I forgot to get an approval on the agenda. Can I have a someone motion to approve the agenda?
See Marco and Sharon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And so we'll move it forward to item number 2 on the agenda, the revised agenda, which is Carlos Chavez from the Roosevelt Island Library. Can you unmute Carlos, please?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. I want to start by thanking Lynn for inviting me to the CBA meeting. It's a pleasure to be here. and I look forward to giving you a virtual tour of the new Roosevelt Island Library. I believe I shared the PowerPoint presentation with Lynn.
Yes. Yes, I have that. I can get that up. Just 1 second.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Okay. And
So in the presentation, you'll see pictures of the inside of the library, as well as short videos and highlights of what we have available for the community at the new and bigger library. So our new address is 504 Main Street, New York, New York, 10044. Our phone number remains the same, 212-308-6243. Next slide, please.
sure. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, so this is a picture of the library across the street, and it's a new 5,200 square foot library that opened for grab and go service on January 25th, 2021. Grab and go service is the first phase of the New York Public Library as we reopen to our communities, and it consists of allowing patrons to borrow library items that they request in advance online through our catalog, through our library app, or by calling us. And you can also return library items at the library. Unfortunately, for grab and go services, there is no browsing at the library, as well as computer use, photocopying, programs, classes, and events. Hopefully, when we move on to phase 2, we will be able to provide those services to the community. But right now, we are only providing grab and go service. The new library was designed by Smith, Miller, and Hawkinson architects and managed by the New York City Department of Design and Construction, led by Commissioner Lorraine Grillo. And it was a $7.8 million project, which offers double the space of our former location. Next, please. So this is the entrance to the library, and I want to highlight what we have available for the community. So now we have a separate children's area with glass doors and partition to uphold an outdoor feel. You'll see pictures of that later on in the presentation. We have a much bigger teen area with 60% of the collection brand new, a reading room for adults, a total of 16,000 books to browse for everyone, for children, for young adults, and for adults. We have many more computers now. We have 29 dedicated computer workstations, including laptops for children, teens, and adults. At our previous location, we only had 3 desktops and 11 laptops, so this was a big improvement. We also have a community room for programming. If you all remember the old location, we had to have our programs right there in by the circulation desk, and it was very inconvenient. We're happy to finally have a community room now where we will be having all our classes, programs, and events. We have a landscape entry area with an exterior book drop. Right now, it's not accessible because of the pandemic, but once we move beyond the pandemic, the book drop will be available. We have outdoor bench seating that will also serve as a local bus stop, and an audio induction loop system to help the hearing impaired. Next slide, please. So I just want to point out a couple of features at the entrance. We have a doorbell, which I'm hovering my arrow over it. I hope you can see that. It's right next to the New York Public Library sign. And we also have an ADA button. And to the right side where you see a red label, that's where the book drop is. And this long hallway that you see over here is for stroller parking. And as you enter the library, now in the present, you'll see this big blue tub in front of you. And that's where you're supposed to return all your items because they're supposed to go through a 4-day quarantine. Next slide, please. Okay, excuse me, let me mute an audio that's going on right now. Excuse me.
So it's really exciting, just to give you a little information while
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
My wife is having her meeting, a Zoom meeting, and it's been like this during the whole pandemic. Okay, let's continue. So what you're looking at now is a picture of the historical archives, and we have the Main Street Wire in its entirety. We also have the island view in its entirety, as well as many surveys and studies of the island, and leases and projects on the historical landmarks. We also have scrapbooks and various newspaper clippings from different sources like the New York Times, the Daily News, and the New York Post. And in this area, you will also see our Roosevelt Island collection, which consists primarily of books about the Roosevelts and the time period that they lived in, including World War II, the Great Depression, and the New Deal. Behind, against the wall, that's the area where patrons go to pick up their holds. So whatever you request online or by calling us, that's where you'll get it. That's where you'll pick it up and then check it out at the circulation desk. And that area is also the reading space. Originally, that's where the newspapers and magazines were supposed to go, as well as the tables and chairs for people to sit down and study. But because of the pandemic, that's not available at the present. Next slide. Okay, so it's actually okay, great. So the community room. This is a big improvement from our previous location. And this is, like I said, where we're going to have our programs, classes, events, presentations. We look forward to continuing our partnerships with the Youth Center, with the Roosevelt Island Historical Society, with Carter Burden Center. And this is where we're going to have a lot of the programs that we partner with them on. Next slide. So this is actually a very short video that I filmed of the community room. That's a pan of the whole room. So if you're able to play it, that'd be great. Okay, never mind. That's fine if it's asking for access. We can just continue with the photographs.
Sure.
So that's actually inside the community room. At the moment, we have to use it for our quarantine. So that's why you see so many blue tubs there, because that's where all the item that gets returned goes through a 4-day quarantine. And that's also where we're keeping all our furniture, because since we're not allowing any browsing and staying at the library at the moment, we've had to put all our furniture in the community room. But you can see from these pictures that it's very big, and that's where we will be having many of our programs and events. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the circulation desk, and there you will find 3 computer stations. One is a self-express checkout. You just need to scan your library card and scan the barcodes on the items that you're checking out, and you can do it on your own. We also have 2 staff-assisted checkout stations. So if you need any help checking out your library items, or if you have any reference information questions, or if you need to get a library card, you can go to one of the staff-assisted checkout stations, and we will be more than happy to help you. And I just want to encourage everyone to get a library card. If you don't, please stop by the library and get one. It just takes about a minute. Just make sure you bring an ID and a proof of address. We also have a new project that's called Shelf Help. So that's for patrons that don't have a specific title or author that they want to read about. So they can just generally ask us for books about mystery or romance or fantasy. And we will select 5 books, put them in a nice library bag, and they can come to the library and check them out with their library card. The Shelf Help is available online through our website, nypl.org, as well as through our library app, the NYPL app. And I want to remind everyone to please download our apps, which include Simply E, which is for audiobooks and ebooks, as well as Overdrive. Next slide, please. So these are pictures of our adult collection. The first picture that you see to my left of the screen is the adult nonfiction. We have everything from books about technology to social science, history, mathematics, languages, anything that you need. We have it in the adult nonfiction collection for information and instruction. And the second picture is for our fiction collection, which includes general fiction as well as mystery, westerns, romance, science fiction, and further down, we have world languages as well as media, which include DVDs and CDs. You can see some of the DVDs against the wall on the right-hand side picture. So this is the adult collection. Next slide, please. Okay, another highlight of the new library, as I mentioned earlier, we have 29 computers, including 12 laptops for adults and teens, 6 desktops for children, and a total of 11 laptops for anyone that wants to use them. And we also have iPads, a total of 12 iPads, which include a lot of educational and instructional library apps. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our new and bigger teen space. And as I mentioned earlier, about 60% of this collection is brand new, and it includes graphic novels, fiction and nonfiction, as well as test prep books and study guides. Okay, this is, in my opinion, the best part of the library and my favorite place, the children's room. And it starts right here. You can see the door labeled children, and it starts with the DVD collection and world languages as well as audiobooks for children. Next slide. Okay, so this is the interior of the children's room. You can see part of the collection on the picture to the left, and the desktops. We have 6 with a printing station, and the picture to the right shows the seating area for babies, toddlers, and older children. There's also a very beautiful view of the bridge, the river, the playground, and the basketball courts right through those glass doors. Next picture. Okay, this is another picture of the collection. So you'll see there are picture books, graphic novels, nonfiction, pre-K books, our reference collection. And I want to remind everyone that we also have board books, easy reader books, young reader books for every level. Next slide, please. Okay, so the last slide was actually a video of the children's room, but that's okay. I don't think you can play it, but this is the last slide of the whole presentation. I just want to thank everyone, the Roosevelt Island community, for their incredible support through this whole project. We could not have done this without the community. We are so happy that we finally have this new library for you. You've deserved this for such a long time. It took so many years, but it's finally here and we're finally open. I also want to thank the Roosevelt Island Library staff for their incredible work, the Residents Association, and so many other people that you see here on the list that you know who they are. Assemblywoman Rebecca Seawright, Senator Jose Serrano, City Council Member Ben Kalos. And I also want to give a very special thank you to Judy Birdie and to Lynn Shinozaki for all their support and all their help in getting the new library open. You can also see my contact info, so please feel free to reach out by email or by phone number.
So before I ask for questions, Carlos, what I'd like to do is just mention to the non-Roosevelt Islanders that the library started in the 1990s as a storefront where people in the community would bring their books that they had read, and we started this book collection, and then we were able to convince REOC into turning one of the storefronts, a different storefront, into a library. And then once that happened, we started lobbying with the New York Public Library to make our little library part of the New York Public system, New York Public Library system. And then what we were able to see was that it was such a popular library and so well used that we were able to convince a bunch of people to giving us an even bigger library. So this was, I'm going to say, a 30-year process. And I have to say, the first time I walked by and saw the library logo outside, I got all choked up because I was part of seeing this whole thing, community grassroots effort to happen. And it was just such an amazingly wonderful thing. So thank you for your presentation tonight, Carlos. And I just wanted to, I see Barbara has a question. If you could unmute Barbara, please.
Sure.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. What did you say was the app to get the ebooks?
So we have two apps. The first one is called Simply E, and I believe I can send it through the chat, but I also included it in the presentation. That's SIMPLY, Simply E. And the second one is Overdrive.
Overdrive I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's Libby. I have Libby. Is that right also?
Libby is also another app that you can use, but the ones for the New York Public Library are Simply E and Overdrive.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And did anyone else have a question for Carlos? Seeing none, I'm going to move the agenda along to our Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation representative, Erica Spencer L. If you could unmute her, Max, and thank you for joining us today, Erica.
Sure. Actually, I just see Marco raised his hand. I'm not sure if it's.
Okay, let's go to Marco first and see if
Sure.
had a question. Okay, unmute Marco.
Go ahead, Marco.
You need to unmute yourself, Marco.
Let's try it again. Try one more time. I'm going to press it one more time, Marco, so be ready for it. Oh, he might even be frozen now, actually. Oh, and now he disappeared.
Okay. How about if we go ahead and get Erica, and then I'll come back to you, Marco. I'm sorry, it's just not seeming to open up for you. Let's try unmuting Erica and
Sure.
come back to Marco.
Got it. Can you hear me?
Yes, Erica.
Good evening. Thank you, Lynn. And just before I get started, I just want to go back to Carlos's presentation and just on behalf of REOC. And I think I speak for most of us when I say that we are truly pleased to have the library back in operation, providing the service that they can in this time during a pandemic, which is quite impressive. And just for everyone who's listening, Carlos has been instrumental in introducing supplemental programming to the Youth Center, which is one of the facilities that we oversee in regards to programming. He has introduced a book club, DJ workshops, as well as a chess club, which led to us actually becoming a member of the United States Federation for Chess. And then he led our first rated tournament at Sports Park, which was something that we thought we would never be able to accomplish. But with his dedication and efforts and just his commitment to everything in regards to the library and additional programming, he was able to help us with that. So I'm extremely excited to pick up where we left off and looking forward to continuing programming with the Youth Center as well as the Roosevelt Island Library. So tonight I have a couple updates for capital projects, and there's a few exciting engagements that we are undertaking in regards to community initiatives. So the first capital project update we have is the Motorgate Garage project. It's 93% complete. We currently are working on the South End elevator repair, and that started on February 15th, and that's slated to be completed on April 5th. Weather depending, we're a little bit behind on 2 levels, so we should be hopefully near completion for the project overall. The elevator is in service, just skipping about a floor a week. In addition to the Motorgate elevators, the floor work is taking place on levels 3 and 4, which are closed to parking until tentatively February 14th. I'm sorry, February 24th, as work is contingent upon the weather. Separate projects outside of that is McManus Field Comfort Station, which is on the perimeter of the soccer field. That project is 67% complete with estimated completion roughly between mid-2021. And then lastly, the Hope Memorial Project, which is located in South Point Park. That's 98% complete, and that is anticipated to have an unveiling mid-2021. So we're hoping to have a virtual engagement for just to, open up the project to the community sometime in May, early June. And then I just want to move on to a couple of community engagements, initiatives that we are undertaking. And I'm going to hand it off to my teammate, Jessica Cerrone, who is the Manager of Communications and Community Affairs. Jessica?
So Max, if you could unmute Roosevelt Island Operating Corp.
That's why I did not see Jessica. Okay. Sorry about that. There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Yes, so we're very excited. The Communications and Community Affairs Department, we have reached out to active island community organizations to introduce a new community engagement plan. The first meeting for the engagement groups will be on March 4th, Thursday evening. And that will be the first meeting for all the groups to convene together for an introduction into the plan and how it's going to work moving forward, which will end up breaking into subdivided groups of organizations, because we have many organizations obviously on the island that we want to include and have participate, so that we don't give anyone, short shrift and everyone has plenty of time to discuss their points. We want to make sure that we have meetings that are conducive to that. So we'll be splitting everyone up into smaller groups that are joined together based on similar expertise and complementary missions or audiences, so they can each talk amongst themselves as well as reporting back to the larger group. So the groups will meet monthly virtually for now, and we will have everyone provide information on their programming, future programming, past highlights from recent months, how they're struggling with the pandemic, any questions they may have or assistance they may need from REAC. So we're really looking forward to getting that started in March. In addition, we have the Bike Safety Subcommittee coming up. In November 2020, we had our successful Bike Safety Town Hall, and that was followed by a bike safety survey that went out in December, where we collected a lot of feedback from the community, got quite a few responses, as well as a large amount of responses for people interested in being on the Bike Safety Subcommittee. So we've reached out to all those who were interested to confirm their interest in being on the subcommittee and gather some additional information. And we will be hopefully finalizing that group by the beginning of March, and then having our first meeting in mid-March. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, and then we have 2 more items on the list to report. And one of them is the Roosevelt Island Youth Center, just providing a quick update on regards to that. Right now, we're temporarily located in Sports Park, and we move the programming there to take care of the renovations at 506 Main Street, which is the home of the youth center, which is conveniently located to the Roosevelt Island Branch Library. So we're really excited about that. So while the center is closed today due to the storm, our regular operating hours are 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And during that time, we provide virtual support, a virtual support academy to help out parents during virtual learning. And then we transition into recreational enrichment and sport activities for kids, just to step away from the online learning, which could be cumbersome for most kids, and just to change up their day a bit. The overall project is 99% complete. We're just waiting for an inspection to pass, and we're anticipating to open the new facility sometime in March. So once we open the space, we're going to have a virtual events for the community, and then provide tours that will be staggered throughout the day, just so the community can see a glimpse of the new space, and you can hear more about the program that I'm really excited about that we'll be undertaking once we open the doors to the community. And then lastly, we wanted to provide an update for our rapid testing COVID site, and I just wanted to switch it off to our new public information officer, Amy Smith.
Max, if you can unmute Amy.
Yes, I am looking for Amy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay, good. Good evening, everyone. As a reminder, we just want to let everyone know that while the site wasn't open today, given the weather conditions, it does continue to service the community every Wednesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's about it.
And welcome, Amy, to Roosevelt Island. I know that you're fairly new, at least for us. And so welcome to REAC and Roosevelt Island. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So before I move forward on the agenda, I noticed that there were some elected officials representatives on. Would any of them like to speak?
If so, go ahead and raise your hand and I will unmute you.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move the agenda along to the Roosevelt Island Bridge bike lane update. And I have been in contact with DOT Manhattan. And as of last week, there were no updates. So what I would like to do is, if you could unmute, Max, if you could unmute Paul, what I'd like to do is discuss with Paul possible, I think that with the winter weather and with what's going on, we're probably not going to get much movement, but I would like for us to plan maybe doing something in April to get the attention again of the DOT and see if we can move that project forward. Does that sound like something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, I would, yes. I actually started a survey. I've got a nice QR code scan survey, which I used December, I think, and we got about 150 signatures. So we can do the same thing again, and that should get people moving. Well,
Okay.
we hope it will.
So for Erica and the REAC team, Paul has been advocating for the bike lane to be covered because it's that metal surface now. And in order to make it more safe for the bikers, and because we're becoming a much more biking community, and I noticed that you're even setting up your bike safety committee. Maybe this is something that we can coordinate along with you guys, because we've been advocating to DOT to actually resurface that area. And they have actually addressed that here in Community Board 8 Roosevelt Island Committee, and have been, what they're telling us, actively working on costing out and looking at different surfaces to have it resurfaced, which is the most progress that I've heard about that, because it's something that I know over the years that we've discussed. So They haven't done anything in about 2 months. I know it's winter, but I think that if we target maybe coordinating something in and a push in April when the weather starts getting warmer and more people would be potentially using something like that, that may be a great next step for moving things forward. So just to kind of get you on board with that. Does anybody else have any other questions about the bridge bike lane?
I've got one more comment, Lynn.
Sure.
I actually did contact the lady, I think we're both speaking to her at the Manhattan DOT. Her reply yesterday was, it doesn't get us any further, but I consulted with my colleagues in our bridges division, and DOT is exploring the use of new materials that could be placed on the bridge deck. When or if the material under consideration is found to be suitable, DOT will need to look for further funding. And I replied to her and I pointed out that I think we have, I guess you'd say, soft commitments from both council members, Kalos and Van Bramer, to support this, which we secured last fall. So I don't think we're going to be have a problem there. But anyway, nothing more specific than that.
So that may be something that we can actually follow up, because that may be capital funding monies that we can talk to specifically Kalos's office about. So
let me tell you the context. That would be great. The context was, if you remember, during the fall of last year, they both committed $1 million to take care of making safe the Queensborough Bridge outer roadway, the South roadway, when that was being advocated for becoming a bike lane. That's become a moot point now because the DOT is going to convert a car lane into a bike lane. But still, they made the commitment. And on the back of that, I got commitments from both their offices to add in the cost of resurfacing bike lanes. It'll be peanuts compared to the $1 million they probably don't have to spend now. But anyway, I think they're going to come through with the money, but it would be helpful.
Okay, so I think that I'm glad to hear that you had even a more recent response than what I got from Colleen. And so now what we need to do is follow up with them in terms of getting it costed out and then trying to get the funding for it. So
one last thing I was going to say as well. It strikes me as funny. Every time I write to her, I say, why don't you come across the bridge? Because I want to show you. If only they would come across and visit the walkway. It looks perfect. In fact, I know it's perfect because I cycle across that when there's no one walking there. So it's perfect for bikes. And it looks like it's a very thin layer that's just been put on top of that part of the metal bridge. So maybe I'm not an expert, I'm not a civil engineer, but I wish they'd come and visit. It might just be very quick, oh, we've got this material ready, let's use it.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the resurfacing the bridge? Seeing none, I'm going to move the agenda forward. And so what we've done, let's talk about big reuse and composting. Roosevelt Island has done an amazing job with composting in the community, and we are big supporters of Big Reuse, who does the composting under the 59th Street Bridge. Community Board 8 has been reaching out to the community boards. So that site under the 59th Street Bridge in Queens is the border of 2 community boards in Queens. So we have been trying to reach out, and one of those community boards is writing a letter to support Big Reuse continuing to use that as a composting site. We would like to join them in their letter of support for the continuation of that composting site, and potentially also affiliate with the other community board who borders that area. So it's a process that seems to be taking a little while. And so we're going to continue to work with the other community boards, because I think the more community boards and voices that we get, the better our opportunity is to help save that site. Just to give a real quick brief overview, the site under the bridge where they're currently doing the composting They did not renew, or they just gave a limited renewal to the lease for big reuse. And several people from our community board have testified before City Council requesting that they continue to give them a long-term lease for that. We'd like to continue to encourage that. Roosevelt Island, through REOC and through the community and through Cornell, has made a concerted effort to help facilitate Roosevelt Island being a zero impact neighborhood. And thanks to Jessica and Cornell's efforts, they've done an amazing map in terms of what buildings and what areas are doing what support to that end. And we would like to help facilitate and encourage the continuation of composting, because we definitely believe that that's part of the future. Any questions or any comments from anyone on the supporting the big reuse composting? If you could raise your hands. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move the agenda along. And the next item on our agenda is Friends of Kohler, and that's going to be represented by, let me see if I can find her. Faluk.
Yes, Lynn, I'm Faluke. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Faluke.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to the Friends of Kulal Network to be able to briefly say what we have done in the last year, and especially last weekend on Valentine's Day for the residents of Kohler. As we know, Friends of Kohler is a community network that has been on the island and has supported the residents and the Kohler to ensure in the last year of the pandemic, with the untold hardships that we all faced, they are able to have some cheer and brightness in their lives. Islanders and the supporters of the Friends of Kohler network have, before Christmas and in the last spring, supported and organized gifts and donations through the Angelica Patient Assistance Program for the residents of Kohler. Many groups on Roosevelt Island, the Main Street Theater, Open Doors, Hacky Compost, I Dig to Learn, and Roosevelt Islander blog did lots of things for the residents of Kulal. They loaned instruments, they gave items in cash and kind, and they showed up to support the event that happened, which was the Walk and Wave on Valentine's Day last weekend, which we did to show some love and cheer for the residents of Kohler. As you know, there was a lockdown in one of the communities, so in one of the wings, so they couldn't come out, but through their windows, they were looking out, they could see us, they could see the love and support and the cheer from over 30 people who walked around and waved to them, saying that we love you, we are here for you, we know it's been a tough time, but we'll all get through it together. The Kohler Recreational Therapy Department also helped to distribute the treats and gifts that were collected by the Friends of Kohler Network. And I want to say thank you to Julia and everyone who helped with the wonderful coordination. Even children showed up. It was fun. It was fabulous. I think there is a 1 minute still video of photos to show what happened. So thank you all for your continued support, and that's it from me.
Sure.
We could try to play that.
Absolutely. And I'm just confirming that there was no sound in that video.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Still photos.
Okay. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to start it now.
And Lynn, if I can mention that there was a post on the Roosevelt Islander, where one of the residents had mentioned that they do look out the window to see people passing by and just to see that they're still part of the community. So that's one of the things that prompted that walking around the building, they will be there looking out of their windows, and they were overwhelmed. They sent lots of thank yous.
Now, from what I heard, because it's cold, they couldn't hear us, but they definitely could see us. And they waved back, but unfortunately, I don't think we could see them. But I think it meant a great deal to them that we were there. And then we definitely walked around the entire perimeter of the building, making as much noise as we could and waving as many things as we could.
Okay. So that's about it.
All right. Any questions for Feluke? Seeing none, I'm going to move the agenda on. And since both Judy is representing the Kohler Auxiliary and also the Roosevelt Island Historical Society, that will be items 6 and 7 on our agenda. Thank you. If you could unmute Judy Birdie.
Go ahead, Judy.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Feluke, for that lovely presentation. And I know it's almost impossible to hear anything inside Kohler. It is frustratingly quiet acoustically, but I know I know Margaret Lopes, who was receiving your gifts, was very happy to receive them. And I just want to clarify one or two things. This lockdown is not because for Kohler, it's for every single nursing home in the state of New York. Kohler is a victim of the nursing home and the governor's mandates and everything. And the administration is just as frustrated with the situation as everyone. Kohler is not being picked on individually. Kohler is one of many. Kohler is a public hospital. This is why you find out what happened, what people claim happens and what people discuss with you. In private nursing homes, you don't find this out. They don't have to report to the public what's going on, how many, if people have problems and things happen. It gets buried in their privacy. But in a public nursing home, such as Kohler, such as the other municipal nursing homes, information is public, which is good in a way, because you know what happens and you know the good, the very good and the good things that happen. And you also hear people who have problems or complaints. So I always want to clarify it, that being a public institution, just like Bellevue Metropolitan, Kings County, these are municipally run institutions, and their information is out there for the public. You're not going to find out complaints like this from New York Presbyterian or from Sloan Kettering or from any other private hospital, because they have PR people keeping all their information close to their chest. Okay, there are window visits now. In simple words, the residents got a letter last week inviting them to have their family call, and they can go to the lobby and have window visits from the lobby, and their family member can talk on a cell phone through the lobby window, so they can be a pane of glass away, which is better than being, outdoors in this weather. There is lots of technology there. And I'll tell you a few things about what the auxiliary has paid for. There is Wi-Fi in the entire building. The residents are allowed out on the grounds, which are lovely, and they go out even in the winter. We have a lot of smokers and they insist on going out, and they do go out. One thing is that Kohler has an auxiliary which was set up in 1953, and it has served the hospital for this many years. The hospital opened in, I think, 52, so it's been there, and the auxiliary has functioned all these years. We used to get a lot of revenue from the movie shoots, but unfortunately, the Health and Hospitals Corporation doesn't give us the money anymore, but we do have a little treasury, and we provide hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and activities every single year. I don't want people to think that the residents in Kohler are sitting there abandoned and there's nothing to do. This year alone, we provided sandwiches for groups of residents for the Super Bowl. We have ongoing snack programs. We have sent more snacks and goodies to Kohler that the auxiliary buys constantly this time. Now remember, if anyone sends a snack or a goodie to Kohler, it must be individually wrapped because of the pandemic. So we have purchased 11 Keurig coffee machines. So every few days, there's coffee hour on all the units, and the recreation therapists give everyone coffee, and they get the coffee or hot chocolate or tea that they want, custom made. We have purchased the end of the year 11 new large screen TVs for their day rooms. We've just purchased 2 more televisions so that their church services will be broadcast from the chapel into the residents' rooms because they cannot assemble in the chapel. We have just last year purchased 30 more televisions, bedside TVs, so the patients are slowly and surely getting new flat screen bedside televisions. They are very expensive to purchase, unfortunately. So we're working with the administration to help us pay for them. We've purchased iPads, iPad holders. So if you're lying in bed, the iPad holder is on the floor next to you and it's stable. That's very good for visits one-to-one. For Christmas, we purchased thousands of items, health and beauty items. We purchased toothpaste, toothbrushes, hairbrushes, hair combs, shampoo, body wash, deodorant, lip balm. Every single resident got a goodie bag because they can't go out, they can't go shopping, it's hard to have your relatives send you things. So every single resident got a goodie bag of what they needed. And the staff is wonderful at coming down and telling us what the residents want. We had hats, we had hair bands, we had gloves, we had a treasure trove of things for the residents. So every single resident got what they needed. And the wonderful therapeutic recreation department at Kohler knows their residents. They come in and they talk, this person needs this, and we give them what they need. We give lots of pads and paper, and art books. We've also funded lots of gifts because they do bingo and games. We give them all those gifts. We just bought a brand new whiteboard for one of the memory care units. We buy art supplies. We fund special meals every month. The other day they had Chinese food for lunch, and they've had their favorite takeout lunch is Popeyes. And we get special food. We get South American food. We get Filipino food. We get Asian food. And every month the auxiliary funds that. We also fund birthday celebrations every month for the residents. In the summer, we fund barbecues. We couldn't do a real barbecue this year, but the barbecue company packaged up boxes and people were outside and they had their barbecues. So this is just some of the things. So I want everyone to know that the Kohler staff works so hard, and it's tough. There are some residents in Kohler that it's really tough and it's hard. And working in a nursing home is challenging sometimes. And the support and the staff are wonderful, and they are so dedicated. And if people know of someone at Kohler and they need something, we can always arrange to get it. But I always want you to know that the auxiliary is there to serve all the patients. All 500 residents there get services. Last year we gave out 500 jackets for Christmas. This year it was much more practical, and we have lots of health and beauty aids and things like that for the residents. So it's a very important service that we provide, and I want people to feel free to donate to it. The Kohler Auxiliary is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, and the money goes right to patient support. There's no administrative cost. It goes right to resident support there, and to make life better for the residents. And I think in general, Kohler receives excellent ratings when they do the Press Ganey surveys, and every year they come out and they go around, not the staff, they into outside people or people who would not personally know the staff go around and do the surveys with the residents. And that's one thing that is very, very important. They have a 5-star rating from CMS. So Kohler is probably one of the better nursing homes in New York, and I'm proud to be on their community board, and on their auxiliary, because I've been on the community board for many years. And I really, as soon as this pandemic is lifted, I welcome you to come in to meet the staff, to meet the residents, and join the auxiliary. Any questions on Kohler and on the auxiliary? Anyone?
Oh, I see one from Jill.
Yes, Jill. Hi, Jill.
Hi there. I just want to support a little bit what Judy had to say. So it's more of a support than a question. I was dragged onto the community advisory board because when you sit next to Judy in a meeting, it's very dangerous. And I was absolutely appalled. It was about 2 years ago at what I heard, and I was frustrated, and I felt like the place wasn't very responsive. And that for people that don't know, the cab has residents on it as well as outsiders like me commuting off of Roosevelt Island, because I am until the June the district leader that represents the Roosevelt Island neighborhood. But I will tell you, since COVID, oh my God, I am so impressed. I can't begin to tell you. I think all the checks that come from health and hospitals and the state there are about 8 of them that happened since COVID started last March. The ratings these guys got blew me away. They came back to check on some of the deficits, and they were given a clear A+ rating, which I was amazed at. I think that, having the hospital there, the Kohler COVID hospital, was very trying for a lot of people. And I think that the Kohler long-term care really tried to assuage these people, that it was only for people that were coming from the outside. I just think there were so many things that were done right. And I have a checklist of everything I thought that was done wrong. So I just wanted to be aware of that as an outsider.
Thank you, Jill. Did anyone else have any questions or comments?
Okay. Shall I?
Not Judy, could you go on to your Historical Society presentation?
Should I turn my head around to my other hat? My long-term hat. I'm happy to say the Roosevelt Island Historical Society is 44 years old. And we are, in spite of the pandemic, we are functioning every 6 times a week. We publish something called From Our Archives. And it's things we have in our historical archives, articles about New York City. Tomorrow's archive is all about the Department of Charities and Correction. We've had ones on museums. We've had articles on other city institutions. We've had articles on hospitals. We've had articles on scandalous people. With 290 issues, you can publish a lot of information. Last summer, we did articles on all the beaches of New York City, and there are a lot of beaches. We've done things on, did you know how many airports there are in New York City? There are all kinds of small airports that existed. And we publish this 6 times a week, and all you have to do is go to rihs.us. I'll put it on the chat, and just tell us you want to sign up for it, and we'll put you on the email list. The Society also is sponsoring a wonderful series at the from the public library. We've We've worked with the Roosevelt Island branch for years, and we've always done series of 4 programs. We had a program a few weeks ago on murder mysteries of the Upper West Side, scandals and murder mysteries. We just had one the other day with Brian Kelly, who told us all about transit objects. He wrote a book on all the objects from the Transit Authority, tokens, MetroCard, maps, patches, and it's a fascinating story. And if you go into our branch of the library, there's a copy of this book. It's called Objects, that we've given to the library. Every book we sell in our visitor center, we've given a copy to the library for reference. We're going to have another speaker in March, Richard Panchek, who's going to tell us about abandoned buildings in March in Queens. We do cross the border occasionally. We're going to have a speaker in April, and she is going to talk about mansions of the Upper West Side. And in May, we're going to have Liz Cohn, who just wrote a book on Ed Logue, who was the master planner of Roosevelt Island. She's going to speak with us. And Danielle Schur at the Public Library is wonderful webmaster for our programming. And the Historical Society is absolutely thrilled to have Carlos and staff back. And it sort of brings life back onto Main Street and into the community. And the librarians are there and they will talk to you. I think people think that they won't talk to you because it's grab and go. I think to me, it's more like grab and chat. So the Historical Society is really good. We're also thrilled to have Blackwell House back. And Erica, we have to discuss some more programming for Blackwell House. And we also want to work with you on putting a video in the house to describe the house and the island history. We're working on that. The visitor center is still there. We're open 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday. We will hopefully continue our tours this spring. It's very funny to have spring, to have cherry blossoms and no one around. It's sad. So we hope that there'll be a way that we can do some in-person tours socially distanced this summer. And if anyone has any questions about the island history or about any feature, please feel free to call me. Contact me, rihs.us is our website. And I thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
So I thank you for that presentation, and I don't see any questions. So I'm going to move the agenda on to old business. What I'd like to comment under old business is that in Gail Brewer's presentation to Community Board 8 last night, she mentioned that she and the other elected officials are continuing to work on trying to bring a bank branch to Roosevelt Island. So I did want to let everyone know that that has not been forgotten, and there is an ongoing process to bring another bank branch to Roosevelt Island. And then for those who are not aware, for people 65 and older, our Dwayne Reed has started to schedule appointments for the COVID vaccine. My understanding is that between Friday and Saturdays, they're scheduling approximately 100 vaccines in the community per week. And there is some rumor that we may also get an additional COVID vaccine site, and I'll have everyone stay tuned for that. We'll hopefully get more information by next month on that. And if there's anyone else that has old business, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to new business. Does anyone have any new business? Raise your hand. Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for their fantastic presentations tonight. Again, I want to say how excited and happy I am about the opening of the Roosevelt Island Branch Library. It's been a fantastic, a long process, but it's such a thrill. We have a very strong community that participates and uses our library. And we really enjoy having Carlos, our head librarian. He's been a fantastic addition to our community. I want to thank the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation staff for attending this evening. We appreciate that. And we appreciate the updates on what's going on with Kohler. Just a reminder, we're encouraging people to, there's a state bill that is encouraging the state to open up visitation under certain circumstances during the pandemic. We're supporting that legislation. Both the Seawright and Serrano are also encouraging that legislation. And I will hopefully be putting a link on the Roosevelt Island site on Community Board where you can voice your support and add your support to that bill to help facilitate visitation at Kohler Hospital. Is there anything else? Can I have someone move to end the meeting?
I see Sharon.
Sharon, thank you. Can I have that seconded, please? Thank you, Lowell. And I appreciate everyone for coming this evening. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next month. If you have any Roosevelt Island issues you'd like us to address here, please reach out to me, and I will look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.